Hi, it's Danielle from the blog warmwithtime.com, and in today's video I wanted to do a little experiment and I wanted to share it here on my channel. What is the difference between stripper and oven cleaner? So you've probably seen a lot of people going around using oven cleaner to strip their wood pieces. Now that is a trend, and I wanted to see really what is the difference between that and stripper. Are both products going to give the same results? Is one going to take longer than the other? Am I going to have to do multiple coats with one over the other one? I just really want to know what is the difference between them, and that way this can maybe help you decide which technique you want to try on your next project. So I saw Andrea from the blog Pine and Prospect Home did this recently. She refinished a wood hutch that she bought for her dining room, and Andrea's results were that the oven cleaner was not quite as effective as she had hoped, and therefore she had to actually go in and sand it. So we're going to try it today and just see if we can get the same result on this piece right here. And so you can see that my piece is very orange. It has a very strong orange undertone, and I'm not really a big fan of that, so we're going to go ahead and strip it. But I knew that sanding in these details would be really difficult. So that meant I would need to use a stripper to get this down to the raw wood. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So the first step that I'm going to go ahead and do before we actually do that is remove all this hardware so that we can get down to just the actual wood and we don't damage it, because this hardware is just gorgeous. Okay, so I'm ready to go ahead and get to stripping. So I'm going to be putting citrus strip on this drawer, and I'm going to use a chip brush to put it on with. That's the go-to way for me to apply the product because it is such a thick gel. And then on this drawer, I'm just going to be spraying some of the oven cleaner onto it. And as I apply these, I'm going to be sure to be wearing some gloves just to protect my hands from getting any of the chemicals on them. I can't find my respirator. If I could, I would definitely recommend using a respirator, even though we are outside today to do this project. You just don't want to be breathing in all of these harsh chemicals. So we're going to go ahead and get to applying the product. And for this drawer, we're going to put on some of the citrus strip. I really like the citrus strip. This is the one I use every time I need to do any kind of stripping, because it has like a citrus type orange scent, but it's not as bad as other strippers. But the main reason that I like it is because it's very thick, so it adheres well to the piece. When I use stripper, I tend to use a little bit more than most people. I just find that the product works better that way when I really thickly apply it. So we're going to apply it all over and let it sit. All right, there we go. We're just gonna let this sit. Just gonna shake this up pretty good and spray. This is so much thinner than the stripper, so I really just don't have high expectations. But we're gonna put it on here and just see. I don't know how much to do. Right away, I can smell it, but it's not super strong. I wouldn't say it's that bad. It actually kind of has like a lemony scent. All right, so we're just gonna let that sit and we will come back in about 30 minutes and see what we got. Okay, so this is what it looks like after 30 minutes. You can kind of start to see a little bit of the foam on the oven cleaner drawer is starting to look a little yellow and orangey, which kind of indicates to me that it might be time to scrub it off. I think I'm gonna wait, give it a little bit more time. With the stripper, I usually let it sit longer than just 30, 45 minutes. I usually go for an hour, 2 hours. So I don't know if it's gonna work on this particular dresser, but I do wanna give it a fair test with the oven cleaner versus the stripper. So I wanna give them the same amount of time and see how they differ. So I'm gonna give it about 15 more minutes just to see how it looks then, and I think then we might be ready to take it off. Okay, so it's been about 45 minutes. I'm just gonna rub it a little bit and see if anything is coming off. I have a bucket of soapy water here I'm just using to scrub it off. I can see a lot of orange is coming off with the oven cleaner. Interesting, interesting. But it still looks kind of splotchy in weird spots. So I don't really know how that's gonna look, but we will see. It's always going to look a lot darker when it's wet, but once you let the piece dry, then that's when the real test of how much of the stain has been removed. I'm very concerned about these splotches. You could see those, like, they almost look neon orange in real life. I'm not sure if that's coming up on the camera, but that's a little concerning. I don't really know what that's about. Okay, now I'm gonna take it to the hose and rinse it off and give it a little bit more of a powerful rinse before we go ahead and let it air dry. All right, so now it's time to move on to the stripper drawer. This is the drawer that had the citrus strip. I usually leave my citrus strip on for a lot longer, but for the sake of science, we want to give them the same amount of work time. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it. Okay, I can see some of the stripper is turning brownish orangish, which kind of makes me think that it worked somewhat well. The real pain with stripper is really just this takeoff process. It's so goopy and gunky that it just makes a complete mess, and I would never attempt to do this inside. I just will sling stripper everywhere, so I definitely always work outside for stuff like this. And for me, when it comes to taking off the stripper, I just scrub it so I can kind of like unsolidify any of the goop that's kind of hardened. Then I have to take the hose and rinse it, just because the strength of the hose helps push it off the piece. All right, so you can see all of that gunk is kind of brown, so it's making me think that it might have took off some of the stain. I just don't know how much more than the oven cleaner, so we'll see. Let's go ahead and rinse this off. Okay, so this is after I've rinsed both the stripper and the oven cleaner off the drawers. This one is the drawer that had the stripper on it, and this is the drawer that had the oven cleaner on it. So a couple of things I'm noticing right off the bat. The stripper drawer looks a lot more even, whereas the oven cleaner drawer, you can see lots of like little neon orange splotches all over it, and it's overall a lot darker. So we're gonna let it dry for a couple of hours, and then I'm gonna report back and show you what the results are of the two drawers. And then once we have a preferred method, then I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the rest of the piece. Okay, so it's been about an hour and a half, and I've let both of the drawers dry. This is the drawer that had the stripper on it, and this is the drawer that had the oven cleaner on it. So you can definitely see a difference in person, as well as it does look like it's coming up on camera. The difference is pretty clear. This looks like it might need a second coat, whereas this looks pretty good to me, and I would probably just leave it here. It's definitely a lot more like a raw wood look, and this one is a lot more dark, indicating to me that the stain is mostly still in the wood and would need a second coat. So to me, this is pretty clear that the oven cleaner is not quite as effective as the stripper. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put the stripper on the rest of the dresser and share with you what that ends up looking like. So it's the next day. I let the piece completely dry, and I brought it inside, put the new hardware on it, and I am just super excited with how it came out. I think the raw wood finish is very beautiful, and it actually kind of matches my floors. It is such an improvement from the orange that it was before, and I'm really happy with how it came out. I think this is going to be an amazing dresser in my guest bedroom. So my final thoughts for this experiment between oven cleaner and stripper are a couple of things. First, I want to say that the oven cleaner did work at removing some of the stain from this piece. It did remove some of that orangey stain. But when it comes to stripper versus oven cleaner, I do think that the stripper did a better job at getting down to the raw wood. However, I could see a few advantages to using oven cleaner, and those are, this would be a great product to use if you need to work inside. So I know Andrea from the blog Pine Prospect Home did some drawers for her hutch in her bathroom tub, and so oven cleaner is thin enough of a product that it can actually go down the drain, and this would be a good method to try if you need to strip a small item and you can't go outside for whatever reason. As far as stripper, ultimately, I do think that stripper did a better job at getting down to the raw wood with the same amount of time that the oven cleaner did. When it comes to ease of application though, between oven cleaner and stripper, which one is easier? Personally, I really don't see much of a difference between the two types of products. Both are pretty similar technique. You apply them, let them sit, and then you rinse them off. So to me, one was not any easier than the other. One could argue that stripper is a little bit easier just because it wouldn't have needed a second coat, but also stripper is just a smidgen more messy in that it's a little bit thicker of material. So it does take a little bit more work to get it off the piece, but I still think that the stripper did a better job than the oven cleaner. And unless it's a rainy day and for some reason I need to do something small inside, I may try out the oven cleaner again. But for the most part, I'm going to stick to the good old-fashioned Citrus Strip stripper to get down to the raw wood finish like you saw in today's video. Let me know in the comments though, have you tried the oven cleaner method? Did you find different results? Is there anything in this experiment that I should have tried a little bit differently? Was I supposed to leave it on longer? Or what was the deal? Let me know down in the comments. I would really like to know your feedback on that. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you're interested in seeing more vintage furniture makeovers here on my channel, be sure to subscribe down below. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.